We made it. We did it.
We did it. We are here. A warm Merry Christmas Eve to you. I'm JJ. I am a life coach. I've been doing carnivore, mostly meat, for 2+ years. And yeah,
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist, and I've been doing carnivore for the same amount of time. And I've had amazing results, which you'll have to take my word for because I don't have any before pictures. We have one for you.
We have one for me. And I have to say, when I started carnivore, eating mostly meat, I didn't tell you that I was doing it.
That's true. You did not.
And so we have a picture coming up that is me. Let me think. That would have been right about the time I started, was in October of 2022.
Should we bring it up?
Yeah, sure. You can bring it up.
There you are. And by the cornfield.
Yep. And so come May, the following year, you were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're aging in reverse. Now,
that's for sure.
I don't know what I'd lost as far as weight at that point, but I can tell you I didn't lose any weight for 7 months, but I did definitely have body recomposition and some instant results. I had my allergies got much better right away. So I knew that there was healing and a lowering of inflammation immediately. And really why I went into carnivore was that I had been intermittent fasting for about a half a year at that point. And I'd learned about insulin and that losing weight and being healthy is really about keeping your insulin in control and not having that insulin resistance that so many people I was going to say in the Western world, but really it's the entire world, not civilized. What's the word? Modern.
That's the word.
That's the word. The modern world have these issues with insulin resistance these days. And so I moved into eating mostly meat, the proper human diet, because I was looking for lowering my insulin, even lowering my inflammation even more. And so I have lost 30 pounds and kept it off pretty effortlessly, in my opinion. Now we're going to do some frequently asked questions today. And so from the outside, it might not look effortless, but from the inside, pretty effortlessly. And my biggest benefit, I'm on hormone replacement therapy. I have had a lowering of my hormone dosages. So my natural hormones have come back to a certain degree, including thyroid. So that's been amazing. Like I said, I've got fewer allergies, barely any allergies at all at this point, including I had very sensitive skin that would break out in rashes on my face and rosacea. And that's pretty much cleared up. And the pièce de résistance,
which is
mood and energy. I had no idea that my mood and my energy could be this good. In my 30s, for the entire decade, pretty much, I dealt with hormonal issues that left me with no life force, sleeping most of my days away, and just my prevailing attitude was sort of, why bother? And this is why I became a life coach, because I was like, let me work on my mindset. What I didn't realize is I was coming at it kind of backwards. I think I did a lot of progress with my mindset, but when you get your body on board, everything gets easier.
Well, your energy is crazy now. And are you willing to share how old you are?
I almost said 54, but I'm not.
How old are you?
I'm 53. I'm 53. He's 54, which is when he has his birthday, I automatically up my year for some reason.
Yours is in April.
But mine's in April. So yeah, I am 53 and I was thinking about it today. I definitely have the energy. I have more energy than since I've gone through puberty. I think I had good mood and energy as a little kid, but then puberty hit and I didn't have a horrible puberty, but things definitely went south as far as mood and energy.
Well, we just recently got back from a vacation, a cruise, and we got home relatively early in the day. And normally in the past we would have been like, okay, that day's over. We're just going to kind of lie around and do nothing and be lazy and try to recover from vacation and travel. And you just did all the things.
I did.
As if we hadn't been anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't quite have that energy level sorted out yet, but I think my metabolic damage was much deeper, at least on the energy side, if not the hormone side. So I continue to heal.
Yeah, I think you had more issues as well. I think mine all boiled down mostly to hormones.
Yeah.
And you had other physical issues.
So one of the biggest things that was repaired for me by going carnivore, and I'd done keto many times in the past with great success. I'd lost a lot of weight. Then I would eventually kind of cheat too much on keto and I'd go off the rails and then I would gain it all back. So I peaked out around 205, 206 pounds. I've now lost 32 and have the best body composition of my life by far.
I know I always say this. You look good. I mean, I don't always say that, but you do.
I thought it was just the slightly too small t-shirt.
No, because in the past, when you've gotten to this weight, you've looked a little scrawny and a little sick, like just not well, not totally healthy.
On a previous YouTube channel that I had started in order to sell some guitars on eBay for your mother.
Yes.
I had done those, I was 15 years ago or something like that. I had recorded me playing guitar to try to just sell them on eBay because she had inherited 15 guitars from a relative that had died suddenly. And in those videos, I had been doing, I don't know, maybe it was Weight Watchers or something, but I was very thin. And I was about this weight, but I looked very different.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the big thing that resolved for me very quickly when I went carnivore, which didn't happen on keto, was improving all of my IBS symptoms. And for me, that was basically gut discomfort, distension, bloating, and just weird gut pains that were very concerning and
all the
constant.
time. Yeah, pretty much all the time.
I also had a just endless acid reflux, which would be worse at night, obviously. But then, so I was always eating. Well, when we first got married, I was eating Pepsid AC. It was a miracle drug.
Yeah.
Because then we could eat at Chi-Chi's on Friday and I wouldn't have to regret it all night. But those two things get resolved very quickly. At least they did for me on carnivore.
It seems to me like gut issues are one of the first things people notice.
Yeah.
Resolving.
And I think it just has to do with maybe if you go really whole foods vegetarian, you might get some of that if the fiber in those particular vegetables don't irritate your gut.
Yeah.
But for me, those vegetables do. But I think getting rid of the processed food is this big thing. That getting that out of the GI tract really helps the inflammation go way down very quickly. So, but anyway, that's one of those huge quality of life improvements
for all of us.
that on keto and very long-term keto never really resolved. And I think it's because I was keeping some inflammatory carbs in, and who knows which ones they were, maybe all of them. I don't really know.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some humorous questions, but why don't we check in with the chat real quick?
Let's.
Steakman Alan from Texas. Merry Christmas to all meat lovers across the globe. And I'll say Merry Christmas to all the haters and losers as well. And we had a rib roast.
We did.
And it was good.
Let me report, because we talked about this in our last live, that I did that 500-degree method where I put it was a 4-pound roast. I put it in the oven at 500 degrees for 5 minutes per pound. So 20 minutes, and turned off the oven and let it sit for 2 hours.
And you didn't dry brine it in advance or anything?
Nope, nothing.
And it was good.
And it was good. It was
perfectly
good.
Cooked.
So easy.
Darcy Blakemore, my friend and I are starting carnivore in January. Have been a little off the keto trail this month due to the holidays. Well, yeah, me too.
Mhm.
But that's okay because, Thanksgiving, I planned to just kind of eat what I wanted. But I didn't go overboard.
Oh, no.
And even on our recent cruise, while I did have off-plan meals, I literally didn't go overboard, which was really good. But I also didn't go off the rails.
No, you did not.
It's hard to go off the rails on a cruise. There's no reason. But Darcy's saying, any advice to be prepared? Well, that's a big question.
So let me talk about my experience first of all, and then I think we should talk about yours a little bit because yours is different than mine. So I did not really do much preparation. Okay, I did some mindset preparation. So just like you're tuned in here, I was listening to the doctors all the time. I mean, we're not doctors, but listening to carnivore channels and especially the doctors all the time to just keep feeding my brain with the information so that I would be able to follow through more easily. But I didn't do a bunch of buying a ton of meat. I mean, I made sure I had some meat and some pork rinds and some little things like that, bacon. But for me, I just sort of, when the time came, I just sort of dove in and did it. And I did not do electrolytes. I salted my food, but I didn't have anything fancy, no Redmonds. I mean, it was just starting to eat the meat and not the other things. And I had very few adaptation issues, really at all. So my transition was pretty easy. I do have the occasional salad, so that might have kept, I'm not suggesting that. You have to decide what's right for you, but that might have kept some of the adaptation symptoms at bay. So for me, it was really more mental preparation than doing much around the house. Again, made sure I had some foods. I did do pork rinds and stuff at that time, some easy foods that I don't even eat as much anymore. So, yeah.
I think that knowing why you're doing it and really being clear on it so that you have a bit of a fallback when you're maybe not feeling as well during some adaptation, or you might feel a little craving, especially in the first week or two, the cravings can be a little bit stronger. But I mean, to this day, I still get cravings for sweet things because I was just raised on sugar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think just having that real clear reason why you're doing it. And then we always recommend take your body comp measurements if you can.
That's
so weight, body fat percentage. We just use the scale that tells us that. And I would do before pictures because many women will not lose scale weight, but they will have body recomposition happen pretty quick. And so it's good to be able to compare pictures and say, well, the scale says the same thing, but the pictures tell a different story. That's one of my things.
Yeah.
But before we get too far down that road, I think some of the advice will be embedded in answers to these questions.
Okay, because I know you had to stick around the house a little while when you.
Yeah, I had involuntary cleanses that required me to be close to the restroom, mm-hmm. and that lasted for longer than the 2 weeks a lot of people said, as my digestive system adapted. But I mean, I think everybody's different. Some people don't have the issue at all. Some people last a bit longer.
Yeah,
it wasn't terrible.
No. I do like the idea about the why, though. I had such a strong conviction moving in, like I'm going to say gut, but that gut feeling of yes, like this is a yes. I had that with this, which I've never had really with a dietary thing except gluten in the past. So I just felt like I was 100% in from the start. So
what you talked about, I mean, we both watched Dr. Berry and Chafee and Baker and stuff. And in one of our earliest videos, we said one of the best things to stay on plan is just binge Berry to build belief. If he's the personality you like.
Yes.
If there's a different doctor, binge that one, binge Baker, binge Chafee, binge whoever. But there's so much great content. It's really important to keep feeding the brain the positive stories about it so that you can stay going.
And look for those non-scale victories, which I think those stories help with too, because you might go, wait a minute. I didn't notice. I've had that. I didn't really notice that. But look, cellulite. I didn't notice cellulite was gone for 1.5 years. I was like, wait a minute.
That was one of our first kind of big videos. And it was something you mentioned kind of inside the video, but I made it the headline of the video and it got a lot of clicks.
Yeah. Did not notice. Again, I didn't really do before and after pictures, which is why we have the cornfield.
Yeah, that's why we have this one. I had to find. That's actually in the blue shirt. That's a freeze frame from a video clip that I happened to get on a walk we took. Yeah. Too bad. All right. So there is no way carnivore is sustainable. You're lying, aren't you?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's why I never have done before photos, is because I never expected anything to stick.
Okay.
Or work. And for me, based on the mood and energy alone, it is sustainable for me. As you've said, it's self-correcting. Once you're on board, when you jump off, you notice it. And I think most people notice it in a large way.
Once you feel better than you felt in decades.
Yeah.
And then you stray from the eating plan. And then all of the bad things that you used to feel come roaring back. It really does reinforce wanting to continue to eat with reasonable compliance.
This past year was the first year I told family at Easter. I said, you know what? They're always so kind to make me a gluten-free dessert. And I said, please don't. Please don't. And we went around and around about it a little bit. And I'm like, no, really. And it was because of that. It's like, it's not worth it. In the past, maybe it was to cheat or whatever. And again, I'm not 100% perfect, but it is just not worth it to have that gluten-free cake and feel gross for a couple days.
So the question on the table is it sustainable or are we lying?
Yes, I would say it is absolutely sustainable. And not only that, you mentioned keto. Mentally, it's easier for me than other things. I just aim towards meat. Like, I don't have to think about it. I traveled this summer and I'm so used to my gluten-free diet that I've been on for 13 years going, okay, what is there in the area that I can eat? What do they like? Where could I? And then it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute. I can eat anywhere. Give me a burger patty. No problem. In-N-Out burger next door. Great. I'll do that. So it is very easy mentally for me as well.
Okay. So you're different than I am.
Okay.
In that even when we were eating sad diet, you were a natural moderator.
That is true.
So if we had a thing of Oreos, you could have 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was worse than not having any. Mm-hmm. I would have to have half of the entire package of them at least to feel, until I felt kind of sick, is how I had to do it. So I'm not a moderator. I am absolutely, totally, hopelessly addicted to sugar. And so for me, carnivore is sustainable because it does suppress the sugar craving significantly for me. For me, it has not eliminated entirely. But I've talked many times on our channel that I associate certain seasons and times of year and certain activities with sweet food. And so anytime I do one of those things, all of a sudden my brain's filled with, ooh, it'd be good to have one of those, fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. But it is much easier to resist knowing the consequence of eating those things. And occasionally I will have one.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yeah.
This question is a follow-up. Do you feel deprived?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you go
carnivore?
First on that.
And the answer is that most of the time, no. But as we approached the Thanksgiving season, we did a whole video where I was kind of weighing, should I have off-plan foods or not? And I ended up coming to the conclusion that I was going to go ahead and have that fork full of stuffing and mashed potato just so that I could have the holiday flavor. But I knew that I was not going to go eating nonstop from, morning till night and the next day with all the leftovers. I knew that was not going to happen. So it wasn't a big risk for me. If I had any concern that it was going to start me off on a weeks or months long binge, I wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel deprived so much as occasionally I do get a little craving.
Yeah, I would say that's the same for me. I don't feel deprived. I do this way of eating because I've chosen it. It is 100% free will, and I can stop at any time. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I do have the gluten-free cake, although it's extremely rare. So it's a choice for me. So because that's part of it. Because it's a choice, it inherently doesn't have deprivation. No one's forcing me to do this. That said, just like you mentioned, for me, I think I told you I didn't have sweets I didn't go off plan for Easter at all. Easter isn't a foodie holiday for me. I know a lot of people have candy and chocolate, but I did that when I was a kid. I don't do that as an adult so much. So it wasn't a big deal. But for Thanksgiving, it is about the food, and we host a dinner and I have to cook it. So I need to taste it, and everyone loves the meal, yada, yada, yada. But Thanksgiving is about food. I'm sorry, family, who says Thanksgiving is family. Yeah, it is. That's important. And it's about the food we eat when we're together. So I chose to eat Thanksgiving.
And you did not just eat plate after plate because our stomachs are so small.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
You just can't.
And this is the second year that after Thanksgiving, we got rid of it.
Yeah.
We don't eat the leftovers for a week like we used to. Not even the turkey we had the turkey around, but we had a little bit of it. It wasn't beef.
So if you're watching this and you're a carnivore, feel free to answer any of these questions in the chat. Do you feel deprived? And have you found it to be sustainable? I'm going to move on to the next question, which is kind of related to this, which is how strict have you been?
Yes.
Because some carnivores are like no coffee because coffee is water through beans and beans aren't animal products. Some carnivores are like, well, dairy isn't actually meat. It's an animal product, but it's kind of on the edge. Mm-hmm. So how strict do you consider yourself?
I consider myself mostly meat in the introduction. I am not 100% carnivore. I'm probably maybe 90%. As far as you know, does that seem like a reasonable?
Yeah, since you kind of have a salad almost every week.
No.
I thought you had one almost every week.
Not every week, but anyway.
Every other week?
Yeah, probably. That's probably about right.
So then, yeah, it's probably more than 90%.
Yeah, so roughly about 90%. So I'm not 100% strict. I admire the people who are. And I do have that voice in the back of my head that's like, ooh, they talk about you can get even more benefits. You don't know how good it can be till you go all the way. And that's just not my personality, I don't think, to be able to do 100% unless I had a serious health condition that required it. Then I would be able to do it like that. But as you mentioned just a couple weeks ago, and it kind of blew my mind, I've hit all my goals being 90%. I don't see a reason to tighten up at this point.
I mean, that's a good point, is that you need to be as strict as you need to be.
Yeah.
So some people will do a more restrictive version called Lion Diet, which the name has been popularized by Michaela Peterson, which is just beef or lamb, just red meat.
Yeah.
And nothing else, no eggs. And even within that, she's even more restrictive because it can't be aged meat. Mm-hmm. So I've never done lion. I've gotten as close as I've gotten is done. I've done long stretches of just beef and eggs, but I've always had coffee, and I'm not giving it up. And I know that there's a couple of our loyal viewers who will probably chime in the comments for the replay, telling me about all the bad things that are in coffee. I'm not stopping it.
Well, and I think if you have autoimmune issues, there are certain issues that require that strictness. So you're as strict as you need to be.
Okay, next question. Don't you get sick of eating all that meat?
So if you told my 15-year-old self or my 25-year-old self or my 35-year-old self, maybe even my 45-year-old self, that I would be eating this much meat, I would have thought you were crazy. I did not like beef, especially, but not really meat for a big chunk of my life. When we first were married and stuff, having to go gluten-free, I did broaden my spectrum quite a bit at that point. But I would have thought I'd be so sick of it. I didn't like it. The texture was gross. Just everything about it. When I went gluten-free, I did learn how to cook meat properly. That is hugely important, is to be able to cook your meat properly and use a meat thermometer. But the truth is, my body now craves the nutrition in meat. So it's not something that I get sick of. And if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. There's that too. It's not being sick of it, but if I'm not wanting the beef, I'm probably not hungry.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. My eating, I didn't do time restricted eating for probably the first year and a half. And then eventually I dropped dairy and artificial sweeteners for quite a while. And my natural satiety signals strengthened. And I also focused on making sure I was getting enough fat. Darcy asked for, any advice going into it. That would be one of the big things that is an error, is not getting enough fat in your meals. And then satiety kind of takes care of itself. And then so I can have a breakfast and a very late lunch, early dinner around 4:00. And then I don't need to eat for however many hours it is until 8 the next day. And that really helped me get a sense for when I was really hungry or not. Because if I was hungry but I didn't want steak, my sense is that that was a low blood sugar hunger, and once I kind of recalibrated satiety, I could always eat a well-prepared steak, but usually with some eggs alongside of it, egg yolks. And then I'm not really tired of the meat. The meat is good.
Because you had beef aversion.
I had beef aversion for a long time with this. And I eventually got over that. And when I got over it, you remember how many steaks I was eating?
It was so weird. Yeah, that's right. You were eating like 3 a day.
Yeah, I was like, finally the signals cleared up, and then I could actually respond to what my body needed. And I was in a deficit of nutrition, even though I had been eating more food. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Don't people think you're crazy?
Yes, they do.
That's the short answer.
Yeah. I don't, for a long time, I did not tell anyone, including Eric, that I was eating mostly meat. It was about a year and a half in before I came out of the carnivore closet and told people. I was not prepared for the backlash of people thinking I was crazy, I would say. And also, I think at some point, the health benefits sort of speak for themselves. So yes, people still are like, really? You don't eat vegetables? Wait, really? No, how do you do that? And these are people who are close to me, too. And so I know it sounds crazy. I know that it sounds like, well, it is. Everything we've been told in the past is absolutely backwards. And yet here I am, more than 2 years in, looking good, feeling good. People can see the difference in me, and I'm still doing it. So at first, where it might sound crazy, I think that when it is sustained and the person isn't dying from heart attacks or scurvy or whatever, then people around you start to go, okay, maybe it's not quite as crazy as they thought. So that's my answer. What
Well,
do you
I don't
think?
talk to people very often.
Oh, that's true.
So, but when the topic has come up with family and
Mhm.
friends, they've actually been probably more curious,
Yours have been, yeah.
and not like concerned or not warning us about the dangers of what we're doing. So I don't think people think we're crazy. Now, occasionally someone who is not a fan of the idea will see one of our videos and make a snide comment. And often I well, I never respond to those. Really. Let's see. What
Wow.
do your family and friends think about your, well, we just talked about that one. Let's move
Yeah,
on.
but let me just
Okay.
backtrack a little bit on that one. Um, so very much thought I was crazy at first. Very skeptical. I didn't get too much fear mongering, so that was nice. But I do have people in my life who have had who are vegetarian or whose doctor have recommended a certain way of eating. So they're really coming at it from that strong angle. And as this year, because I came out earlier this year as a carnivore, as the year has progressed, I think a lot of people in my life have moved toward at least less processed foods. And so what I'm doing is a little less crazy. And again, I've been doing it for 2 years at this point. So I think they see me, and the conversation has shifted in this last quarter or so of the year where people are talking about seed oils and processed foods and so forth. And so family and friends aren't jumping on carnivore, but they're starting to think about their nutrition differently. I'd say
Yeah.
that.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you've been an example.
Mhm.
And so at first they noticed you had changed, you looked better, and you eventually told them what you were doing, and they were, that's weird. And then they see that that change is sustained,
Yeah.
and then they start going, there's something to that. Because you can tell people, you can say a lot of things and it just bounces right off. But when people can see the change, then that's what is convincing.
Yeah, I have a couple family members that I'm in contact with a lot through text. And yet every time they see me, they're like, "Wow, you look like you're in college. Like, wow." So even though they know it and they keep experiencing it, every time they see me in person, it just is, they shake their head. Wow. Yeah.
All right. So that's okay. The next question, I love this one. Are you crazy?
Mm.
That's debatable
Mhm.
from a certain point of view, could be argued, but no, I don't think we are. I've had many mental health issues, but I don't think I've been full crazy.
No. And like I said, for me, if this is what crazy feels like, I don't want to go back. Like, just again, the mood and energy for me. Um,
Well, when I wrote this stupid question, I was trying to write questions that were coming from a mildly hostile, condescending point of view. And the reason I wrote this one was because carnivore, when I first heard about it, when Dr. Baker was first on Joe Rogan's podcast, I really did think that that's too far. I mean, I understood
Yeah.
keto and I thought that was generally a really good way to eat. Lots of meat, lots of fat, that's all good, but just carnivore, I couldn't get my head around it making any sense. And it's because the conventional wisdom is so far from that. But the conventional wisdom, which we could consider it being organized generally around government dietary guidelines, is proven to be so destructive that you actually have to reframe your whole worldview to say, now wait, that's actually the crazy way to eat, is what the recommendations are. So anything that's away from that is probably an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And we're way away from it. So we've encountered extraordinary improvements in our health and our quality of life.
We just saw the movie Wicked as a family, and Wicked has sort of gets to be a sort of a big brothery political type embedded in the fun story, right? And there was a scene where they were talking about, and I've seen the musical. There was a scene where they were talking about the lion cub, and if they can cage it soon enough, it will never talk, because in this world, the animals were able to talk, and the government's trying to erase that, right? Basically. And so if you get them young enough, the animal, we're finding it won't even be able to talk someday. And I was just like, wow, the way we have been eating starts from such a young age, seeing the children, on formula, which sometimes you have to do, no bashing if that was the way you had to go. And I certainly didn't do things perfectly with our daughter by any stretch. But the kids with the apple juice in the sippy cup, and the fruit and veggies hanging out of their mouth in those little sacks with the sipper on it now, like there's just, and the Cheerios and the puffs, the little toddler puffs. It starts from such a young age that I know from experience. I told you, once I hit puberty and the hormones started going wacko, they were off the rails wacko in a way that I was dragging. By the time I was in my 20s, in the late 20s, I was dragging myself through the day. So I look around at the people around us. And I said this when we were having the remodeling job too. You're like, wow, we love our contractors, but wow, they really take a lot of breaks or whatever. And I'm like, these people can't make it through the day. They are exhausted. They have brain fog, and they are dragging around extra weight. And it started when they were eating those puffs and sucking on that apple juice when they were 1 year old. So anyway, I just got on a soapbox.
So we're not crazy.
So
we're mad.
Well, yeah, like I said, if this is crazy where I'm not actually, just barely making it through the day, I'm pretty happy to be where I am right now.
All right.
I went way off on that.
How badly has it ruined your digestion? Has carnivore ruined your digestion? How bad, JJ?
Okay.
Be honest about it now.
Don't lie. So I've strangely, even though I've had really bad gluten issues and possible celiac, it didn't affect my gut. I've got a pretty good, strong gut overall. So I've not had any digestive issues at all, like really pre-carnivore or post-carnivore. And I actually love that on carnivore, there's just less waste. I'll put it that way. There's just less waste. The body absorbs most of the food I eat, and there's less waste. So it's lovely. Now, you had digestive issues, which
I did. So it
mentioned.
fixed my digestion. It didn't ruin it. It fixed it. And I eat 0 fiber.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really helped improve my digestion. So all the advice about eat more fiber is a mistake, I think, for most people, especially if you have any gut pain, because it's just irritating the gut lining. Yeah. It's just a scouring brush going through there. You don't want that.
I love the way you've put that.
Yeah,
yes.
It just scours it. It's not good. You don't want that. I know it's counterintuitive because of what everybody says, but everybody says a lot of things that they only heard from someone else.
Yeah.
All right. So, no, really, what is wrong with you? That's the question. No, really, what is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
You know, why are you doing this?
I think I've stated why I'm doing this. 100% mood and energy for me to actually have days that are full of ease and happiness and singing and dancing around the house and being able to get my work done and feel purposeful. And it's just amazing. So, if doing carnivore is wrong, I don't want to be right.
There's nothing wrong with us. What about holidays? Are you insufferably difficult to cook for and annoying? No. Annoying, yes. I'm sure I'm extremely annoying.
But that's not new.
I'm not difficult to cook for because if someone else is cooking for us, usually there's some meat and I can load up on that. I can eat less, or I just eat what they make and account for it in the next day.
We went to a special family event recently in a restaurant. And again, the family was so kind, trying to make sure that our dietary requirements were being met. And it was just so funny because, I've been gluten-free for a long time. So that's been an important issue in the past. But now it's really literally like, this place has meat, right? I'm good.
Just need meat.
As long as it's not a vegan restaurant, I'm good.
I think I had a great filet.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I needed like 3 of them, but it was really good.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is the amount of food, because we're not filling up on the rolls and the potatoes.
We went to breakfast at a local place 2 mornings ago.
Yeah.
JJ's I got this idea. Let's go to this place. And I got the steak and eggs. And I asked for more eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't picturing in my mind the steak, which was, do you think it was 4 ounces? Maybe 3 ounces?
Oh, probably 3.
It was about the thickness of a pencil eraser and about the same texture. Kind of even flavor. It wasn't good. Yeah, but I think in terms, 1 unit of steak is 12 ounces minimum.
Yeah. So I don't expect when we do eat at someone's house or eat out, I'm probably going to need to eat either when I get home or it's better to eat before I go. And it's not because of food choice, but it's about food quantity. Because I can't, if it's a taco bowl, I can't go and take their 1.5 pounds of meat for my plate and leave a 0.5 pound for 7 people.
Right. Yeah. You can't hog it all.
So that's probably the biggest thing. But yeah, I don't know. People probably think I'm insufferable anyway, even though it's actually gotten easier.
Yeah. Next question. Why don't you just admit your weight loss was calorie restriction? Just admit it, JJ. It wasn't the carnivore diet. It was fewer calories because beef has less and you're just getting more full quicker.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was talking to a friend last week and she brought up, she's like, I don't want to be like sound bad or anything, but she's like, I'm over here eating a half a sandwich and you're ordering 2 entrees. So, and again, it was in the conversation. It was perfectly appropriate. I eat a good amount of food most days. Like I listen to my body cues. Some days I eat a lot, some days I don't. But I don't think it's been calorie restriction at all. And I think if it were calorie restriction, I would have seen a loss in muscle mass and lean mass. But no, I think I'm very well nourished. I eat plenty of food and I don't think it is just calorie restriction.
Well, given that answer, I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, why do you hate science?
You're going to have to start this one.
We love science. We have a high standard for science. YouTube, if you're listening, we love science. Science is great. And we demand rigorous science. And so we're not impressed with articles that say X is linked to Y, because linked doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We like really strong randomized controlled trials, which are almost impossible to do with nutrition because of ethical reasons. And you just can't imprison people in a ward from the time they're born to the time that they die. So anyway, we love science.
We do.
And we're amazed by it. And we do a lot of N of 1.
I was going to say,
a lot of in our approach.
N of 1. And when I started hormone replacement therapy, and you were a little concerned about that.
Yeah.
I said to you, because, you were concerned. And I said, I need to be able to live my life in a way that I feel happy and can move through my days. Even if this is bad for me, which, again, poor studies might be saying, I can't go on the way I am where I can barely get out of bed. So I need to have quality of life. There's a term for that, not just quality of life. But you know the term, don't you?
Health span?
Yeah. I need a health span. And if I'm flat on my back in bed, life is not real. I was going to say it's not really worth living. That's a little dark, but I don't mean
we don't want to be dark on Christmas Eve.
No, I don't mean it that way, but it's just the quality is not there. The quality is not there. So I want a good quality of life.
So we also want to mention that you'll see all of the Reader's Digest style articles that tell you blueberries prevent Alzheimer's, or kale have some specific benefit for your health. All of that is based on nutritional epidemiology, where they look at a population who claims to have eaten some of it versus people who don't claim to eat it. And then they see if there's a difference in some sort of health outcome. That is not the end. Nutritional epidemiology is not the end of science. It can only create a hypothesis in most cases, which needs to be tested. So we love science so much that we don't give much credence to those studies.
Yes.
How about this one? Don't you know saturated fat is literally the worst? Don't you know that, JJ? Saturated. It not only is it fat, it is saturated. And if anything is bad, it's going to be saturated. So how do you defend yourself against this charge?
First of all, N of 1, I feel great. Better than I felt. Eating all this saturated fat, I feel better than I've ever felt as an adult, surely. And that fat is what is, I believe, is ancestral. It's a belief. I believe is ancestral. So our bodies were built to use that saturated fat for our hormones, for our nerves, for our brain, etc., to make us healthy. So what do you have to say?
I say that I didn't know that. I didn't know saturated fat was literally the worst. I've changed my opinion on everything. I will go back to just eating rice cakes and just let my blood sugar shoot up, let my insulin go sky high, and hope for the best. All right. Can a phlebotomist even suck out your super thick, gloopy blood? For me, the answer is actually it's hard for them, but it's not because my blood is super thick and gloopy.
So why would it be thick and gloopy, first of all?
Well, I think the joke implied in this question is that eating all of this fat will make your blood thick and you have clogged arteries. And that's not how it works anyway. The fat that you eat doesn't directly clog your arteries.
No.
But yes, a phlebotomist can suck out the blood out of my arm successfully. Although when I'm doing blood labs, because they use the little vacuum tube things to draw it out, the vein they always choose, which is very prominent in this arm,
right there,
They love that vein because it's like, oh, that's a big juicy one. Well, it's been used so frequently that every time it's under vacuum, it collapses
It's
immediately.
difficult.
And then they've got to jab me in a different room every time, every single time. But yeah, they can get all the blood they want. Okay. Isn't all that fat bad for your heart, or are you just banking on a miracle? No, the fat's not bad for our heart, and no, we're not banking on a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I bet your kidneys are wrecked from all that protein. My kidney function is excellent.
Yes.
Actually, it's improved. Not that it was bad, but the kidney markers improved on carnivore.
I was going back to the fat heart, the fat heart question.
Yeah.
And we just did a recent video based on Dr. Barry's, where he goes through that women's health initiative study and gives the different markers or risk factors, the different risk factors.
That would be this one right here.
Yeah, that would be it. For heart disease. And so, I mean, the carnivore diet heals type 2 diabetes, heals metabolic syndrome, heals hypertension, heals obesity. So right there,
it doesn't heal smoking.
No, it does not heal smoking. Although there are people who have said that it has improved their other addictions.
Because probably it's enhancing the GLP-1 naturally, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the theory behind it. But there's no guarantee there or anything.
Let's keep going down this list. When we get into the blue section, lipoprotein insulin resistance, this is a calculated number. And it's basically the same as metabolic syndrome up above in the red chart. So that's a 6.4 times risk hazard ratio. And then come triglycerides. Most people have seen triglycerides on carnivore normalize, go way down below 100. My decline has been slower, but it has been happening.
But we've learned too that this is a long game for some people.
Yeah.
And they will have this improvement years into eating a meat-based diet.
So then we get down to LDL, the thing that's probably the most common thing that people get tested by their primary doc. And if it comes in above 100, they say you need a statin. And it's way down on the list of risk factors. And if you don't have all of the ones above it, the question is, does LDL even matter if you have a really, really good metabolism? And that is, I think the jury is still out.
Yeah.
And no, let's go back. We do not hate science.
No, this was a good study.
So
a pretty good study.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's continue on. Why don't you just eat a balanced diet? This is the thing I see very frequently. You watch a carnivore video and inevitably someone who doesn't know the channel, like on one of Carrie's video on Homestead How, somewhere down in the thread of comments, somebody will say, why don't you just eat a balanced diet? And then you won't have any of these problems. And the answer is, why are you stupid? That's the answer to that question is, why are you so stupid? You would post something like this. What on earth? I mean, just step back. Does balance sound like a firm foundation upon which to live? No, balance is precarious. Balance is setting one thing against another to keep from falling apart. Balance is stupid. It shouldn't even be a goal for your diet. You should eat a proper human diet. It has nothing to do with balance. Balance is made up. It is fake, and it has no scientific basis whatsoever. It is an illusion. It sounds kind of like it's good because balance is makes you feel like you're doing something in moderation. That's not what balance means. Balance is fake. It is a hoax. It is a lie. It is deceitful. Ignore it. Totally.
Mic drop.
All right, moving on. Doesn't all that meat make you feel sluggish? Where's the energy supposed to come from? Don't you know the brain needs carbohydrates?
So I think that the idea that common myth that meat makes you sluggish is just that. I think it's a myth. I'm not sure where that comes from.
I can guess.
What?
Somebody eats meat and potatoes and it gets really tired. It's like, oh, that meat. It really makes me tired and sleepy.
It's not the potatoes. No way.
Couldn't be. Those are full of carbs. That's energy.
Well, that's, yeah, true. So I do hear some, like Bella, steak and butter gal. She likes to eat her main meal later in the day because she does go into rest mode, like rest and digest mode. So she likes to eat it at night before bed, before bed. That's her. But sluggish, no, I don't experience that at all.
Not at all.
No.
I only feel sluggish if I have carbs.
Yeah.
Because that spikes blood sugar, which then raises insulin, and then the insulin overshoots and blood sugar goes too low. And then I feel tired. I want to take a nap, and then I want to eat something.
Yeah. Our energy comes primarily from fat at this point.
Because we're fat adapted.
Because we are fat adapted. So you can either use, for the most part, carbs for energy or fat. And our bodies are adapted to use fat, which is the preferred method of energy use for the body. And yes, the body does need some glucose in its system. It needs about a teaspoon in the system at any given time, and it makes its own glucose. We do not have to add any carbohydrates to the diet.
Boom. All right. Aren't you worried about scurvy or, I don't know, just dropping dead from malnutrition? Well, by now in this video, you know that we're not worried about dropping dead from malnutrition because we've been doing it for 2 years and we haven't dropped dead from malnutrition. Scurvy, we're not worried about because we also don't have it.
This was really hard for me to get my mind around, though, yet it made sense to me that the reason there's such a big focus on red meat in carnivore, and it tends to be a natural focus. So if you're coming into carnivore and you want to eat a lot of chicken, fine, do it. We eat chicken, we eat pork, but my body wants beef the deeper I get into this. And the thing that I had never heard before was that the cow, red meat, what is the term for that? Their stomachs. They are
ruminants.
Ruminants. Thank you. It was just dropped out of my head. Ruminant animals are designed to take the nutrition from plants and turn it into energy for them. And then in turn, they have their muscle meat has all the nutrients, and their organ meat has all the nutrients, and their fat. They are designed to do that. They have all the nutrients that we need. So if we are eating animal fat and animal protein, we are getting those nutrients. And we never heard that because your plants are where you get your vitamins and minerals, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can absorb them. And that's one of those things that you'll see on a chart, a nutritional chart for kale or chard or spinach or something, all of the nutrients that are in it. And it's very high.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, can you actually get it? Can your gut absorb it out of that? And the answer is questionable.
Yeah.
Plus you have, they do come along with some anti-nutrients and toxins that will try to make you sick.
Yeah. But ruminant meat especially is easily absorbable by humans.
All right. What's the point of cutting out vegetables? Aren't they like the health food? Well, we just talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
The point isn't to cut out vegetables. It's to put an intermediary between us and vegetables. And that intermediary is a cow. So that the cow can eat the wonderful vegetables, which are full of wonderful vitamins and minerals, incorporate those into its flesh. And then when I eat the flesh, I'm getting the benefit of all those wonderful plants. So as I like to say, eat your vegetarians.
Yep.
And then you will be very healthy and get all of the plant nutrition that you could ever need.
Yeah. And again, mind-blowing. We just weren't brought up learning that.
Have you enjoyed this video so far? Make sure to give us a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you didn't like this video, mom's the word. No reason to say anything. Let's check in on the chat
we
here.
haven't been We haven't been in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. Remington, hello from upstate New York. Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve to you too.
Do you have big plans? Do you have big carnivore plans? Are you going to eat something, got some sort of carnivore fruitcake?
We're going to a fancy buffet at a resort. That's our Christmas Eve tradition for the last many, many years. And there's some good prime rib and stuff on that.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Christmas rib roast was awesome on Sunday. My family was fully on board and brought a couple carb items for their children.
Good.
Very good.
Nice.
And he also says, I'm flying to North Dakota Thursday. Is it okay to pack a couple of cheap frozen rib roasts and check luggage? You probably can. I doubt that would be a problem. Now, if you were crossing into a different country, they might have agricultural rules for importing that. They wouldn't like.
That's a good idea.
Let's see. Lisa says driving.
Oh, but she joined us. I know the time. We didn't know what our timing was going to be. So glad you could join us.
Glad
Lisa.
you joined us. And do not text into this while you're driving. That is not safe. That is not in keeping with carnivore philosophy. We don't take unnecessary risks. That's why we eat a proper human diet and don't eat all the nasty salads. Well, JJ eats them, but we don't eat them because salad is toxic. All right. Deborah says, Merry Christmas, JJ and Eric from Vancouver, Washington.
Merry Christmas to you, Deborah. Thank you for watching.
Let's see. Natalie says, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Natalie.
Alan says, yes, my best friend thought I was crazy until he got on carnivore. It cured his arthritis in 2 weeks. People just love sugar and alcohol so much.
Yes.
2 weeks. That's crazy.
Wow.
Because you could imagine probably suffering from the aches and pains of arthritis for decades and then having such relief so quickly.
Yeah.
United Carnivore says carnivores unite. So I guess username checks out.
Yes. And I love the lion.
I brought a crock pot full of hamburger for one holiday dinner, which was awesome, themed potato bar. Oh yeah, we remember you mentioning this.
Yes.
Diabetic took up most of the space at the table. Huge people. Well, if they can just get the idea in the head, within a year, their life could be totally, completely transformed.
Yeah, so different.
But it's hard to get someone to imagine something like that when it's hard to imagine feeling a way that you haven't felt. You know what I'm saying? So if you haven't felt energetic and full of vigor and life and optimism, it's hard to manifest that feeling within your mind to model it so that you can say, oh, I want to feel that. And I'll get that if I eat a certain way. There you have to, the eating. That's why so many people have to hit a sort of a low point or an emergency where they're just like, I'm at wit's end. I don't know what else to do. I guess I'll try this. And then they try it. And then the benefits start coming pretty quickly.
And for some people, they have to get through that adaptation period too. I've heard people say that if they start having issues like you did with the involuntary cleanse and they talk to someone they consider an expert, especially like a doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, that's just proof that this diet isn't good. And you do have to get through that adaptation. Now, when you were adapting, you had a certain mindset about it when you were having your cleanse.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
When I was having any negative symptom that was related to the adaptation, my philosophy was good. This is good. It's uncomfortable, but it's good. It means that my body is encountering something that it's not used to, and it has to make the adjustment. And so it's a positive sign that adjustments are happening.
Yeah.
Curtis says, hello from Michigan, and also Merry Christmas. Hello, Curtis.
Merry Christmas to you, fellow Midwesterner.
Deborah, 2 years, mostly carnivore, January 1st. I never feel deprived. I know my why. Great.
Yeah. And happy almost anniversary.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Carnivore fruitcake is meatloaf sans the bread.
We still haven't tried meatloaf. We have such meatloaf trauma from being kids and having parents make dried out meatloaf that needed a half a bottle of ketchup just to choke it down. But we still haven't had any meatloaf.
No, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because you have what 5 or 6 prime or rib roasts that you've gotten on various sales.
We do have a lot of prime rib roasts in the fridge right now. Yeah.
I was now that I'm on to that whole thing, we were at the grocery store this morning, and so the butcher was bringing out rib roasts to put out in the case, and I was like, "Oh, let's go see what the price is." $9.99. I wasn't impressed. We've seen way better. We've seen way better recently. It's like, don't give me your $9.99 rib roast. You need to sharpen your pencil, sir. I did not say that, but I thought it.
No, any other time of year, I'd be like, oh, let's grab some. But no, unimpressed.
Let's see. Steak Man, you are the best carnivore couple on YouTube. I forgive JJ for eating salad.
Thank you, Alan.
Been trying to get down to the heart of the matter. Even if you're eating salads every week. Annette, you made it. Hi guys, I made it. Merry Christmas Eve. It's Mom's birthday. She's 88. I made her a quiche Lorraine. That sounds really tasty. And sirloin steak later.
I was tempted to make sort of a quiche frittata type thing for Christmas morning tomorrow, but you and our daughter aren't going to eat that probably. I mean, you'd eat some, but then I'm going to be left over with a bunch of it.
Yeah.
And more effort than it's worth. We're all just going to have our normal breakfasts and be happy.
So I think we made it because we've got.
And happy birthday to your mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We're not going to sing.
88. Woohoo.
We will be back on Friday. So to all of you, thank you for being watchers of our nonsense and enjoying us answering these fake questions I made up that were mildly hostile. Hope that you were at least entertained, if not educated. I hope that you have a wonderful Merry Christmas tomorrow. Or if you're watching this on replay, maybe you're having a Merry Christmas right now. Maybe we are part of your Christmas. And if so, thank you for watching.
I will say even happy Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is on the 20th. It's late this year.
Is it?
It's right in the season. It's late. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about that. She's Jewish.
Just have happy. Just be happy.
Yes.
Be happy. Be carnivore. Get all those hormones where they belong. And be like JJ. Just carnivore bliss 24/7.
Yes.
So we are about to end here. We have to change gears and get ready to go to our Christmas Eve dinner and not, I repeat, not hit up the dessert buffet.
Yep. So thanks again. Merry Christmas, everyone.